I felt as though I was missing massive puzzle pieces in my understanding of, not just what it takes to be human, but just how we operate as a human being. And I sort of live so much with that thought that it's me, I'm the one with the problem. I'm the one that, there's something wrong with me. And what I saw with what I learned, it's kind of like I took my nose off the glass, and just sort of started to broaden my vision and see that actually it was more, nothing wrong with me. I was just living in an innocent misunderstanding of how we worked as human beings. And, when we understand that.
Today, I'm delighted to introduce to you my special guest, Tracey McBeath. She lives in Melbourne, Australia. She is the mother of five. She's the author of two books. She is a global health and life coach and coach mentor. She is a Nutrition Network lecturer. She's a mentor and teacher with their certified practitioners programs. She's also a personal trainer. She's a public speaker, podcaster, and creator of the Lived Experiences in Health and Healing in-person events. After her poor health diagnosis at the age of 40, where she was diagnosed with fatty liver, prediabetes, Hashimoto's, codependency, sugar and carb addiction, and alcohol dependency, she completely transformed her life and health. Now, at nearly age 52, she is leaner, healthier, and full of energy to keep up with her full and thriving life. Here's my conversation with Tracey McBeath. Tracey, thank you so much for being here today.
It's amazing. Thank you so much for having me. I'm glad we finally found a time that worked for both of us. It's great to be here.
Yeah, thank you. All the way from the opposite side of the globe. You are in Australia, right?
I am in cold Melbourne, although it's sunny today. But yeah, it's middle of winter. You're in your singlet,
Summer.
and
It
I'm
is. It's warm here.
freezing here.
Okay. Well, thank you for being here. I'd love for you to fill us in a little bit about how you came to be doing what you're doing today. Like, I'd love to hear a little bit about your personal journey if you don't mind sharing.
Not at all. You know how for a lot of people, 40 seems to be the time where things shift a lot. That
Yeah.
was exactly what happened to me. So I was actually 39 and I was diagnosed with fatty liver and pre-diabetes. And, it was that was my big wake-up call. I was kind of like, well, hang on a minute, that doesn't seem right. I, at the time, was a personal trainer. I wouldn't say I was very good, particularly good. I would struggled with my weight, like I had to work really hard to kind of keep it in what, I thought was sort of, where it should be. And that just kept getting harder and harder. And, of course, diets and all that sort of stuff were part of my world as well. And then I got this
Mm.
diagnosis and I was just kind of surprised, if you like. I didn't, expect to get that. And it really led me down a path of, well, what am I doing wrong? Given what I'm following and who I'm listening to, I started, I guess, to open my mind a little bit and started to listen to different people who were talking about different things around nutrition. So that was, I'm nearly 52 now. So that was quite a while ago. And that was the catalyst. It just started me on this journey of just unlearning so much I thought I knew about not just nutrition, but just what it takes to be healthy and and vibrant and to thrive. And after I sort of came across some information, I sort of thought, hey, can't, I've got to share this. I can't, keep it to myself. I want people to know this and have the opportunity to embrace this as well if it works for them. And so I did a bit of study and decided that coaching was, the way I wanted to go. The only thing was I had a few hidden secrets in the closet in that, I was dependent on drinking every day. And even though I knew that eating sort of sugary ice cream and chips and processed foods and stuff like that after I drank, because the drinking was always my catalyst that started things off. And then, and I now understand why. What happened is I then craved all this other stuff. And I kind of kept that hidden. And I sort of thought, well, now I understand really that stuff isn't helping me. It's making me sick. Why can't I stop? I still couldn't stop. So I had actually started coaching at that time. And I was starting to see that I had a lot of clients sitting in front of me who were saying the same thing. And I'm like, okay, I'm being called here. Like I've got to get honest with this and look at what's going on. And I just started seeking and searching. And I think I haven't stopped. It's about understanding and answers and curiosity. And uncovering, why is it that we make the choices that we do? And why is it that so many of us, we know that drinking too much and smoking and, binging and all these things that we might do are not good for us. But in the moment we can't stop. We have these habits that are really, really difficult to give up. Why? Yeah, so that's been, I guess, the biggest search for me because I felt as though I was missing massive puzzle pieces in my understanding of, not just what it takes to be human, but just how we operate as a human being. And I sort of live so much with that thought that it's me, I'm the one with the problem. I'm the one that there's something wrong with me. And what I saw with what I learnt, it's kind of like I took my nose off the glass, and just sort of started to broaden my vision and see that actually it was more, nothing wrong with me. I was just living in an innocent misunderstanding of how we worked as human beings. And, when we understand that, like any understanding, we kind of know how it works and we can navigate things a bit easier. And yeah, so that's in a nutshell. So I'm also a mum of five, which don't ask me how that happened. It wasn't the plan. Well, obviously it happened for, I know how it happens, but no, I had three kids with my first marriage, and my first marriage ended when I was 35, actually. See, I think that was kind of the point where I started to turn the ship a little bit and heal, I guess. And I had three young kids at the time. And then I married, after a few years, I met the love of my life and he didn't have kids and we had another two together. So I have a beautiful mix. My oldest is 23 and my baby is, gosh, nearly 11. So he's not really my baby anymore, but yeah, so my work is in and around my family, and I just am very thankful that I have the opportunity to do what I do, and I know what I know now, and I'll share it with anyone who's interested in listening.
Thank you so much for sharing all that. The words that you use make me like just resonate with me. It feels like there's some alignment that we have just by the way that you describe things. Like I love the way that you are saying you've really gone through these past 13 plus years in this deep journey of unlearning, and that you were so curious and were really trying to open your mind and get critical about what was the information that you were doing your best to adhere to, but that maybe that information wasn't right for you, and really trying to explore what would work for you and your own health. And I'm curious, it sounds like you've really done, had a transformation and feel like that some pieces of the puzzle have come together. Have there, like, what have been some of the maybe the most surprising things or some of the things that have moved the needle the most for you in terms of the shifts that you have made in these past 13 plus years?
Yeah, look, I think that's pretty easy, actually. I mean, there's many things, but I think if I'm going to talk about the biggest light bulb moments, if you like,
Yeah.
well, the first one would definitely be nutrition. Apart from my drinking and my binging, I thought I was pretty healthy. I mean, I did kind
Mhm.
of follow the dietary guidelines, if you like. I mean, that's what I was teaching as I was personal training as well. It was all lots of carbs and grains and healthy low fat. And that was really my first sort of wake up call to sort of learn that actually the science behind that is actually very slim. And really what that does is dysregulate our body and our brain, and it actually makes us really hungry. And that's why for a lot of people, when we eat a lot of carbs and grains and things like that, we are hungry all the time. And then if we try and calorie restrict on top of that to lose weight, so we're cutting our fat, our body just goes into this kind of like chaos. And, I think at the end of the day, we as human beings with our conscious mind have a huge amount of power, but we are powerless against, hunger, particularly ongoing hunger, which I know many people have experienced dieting. It's just awful. So what I learned, was about a concept called metabolic health, that we have a metabolism, which is, it is the way our body makes energy for us. And then we have, overriding that, this metabolic health, which is just how well it does that. And obviously diabetes, type 2 diabetes is a sign, and pre is a sign it's not doing it well, of being overweight, having fatty liver. A lot of the kind of modern diseases that a lot of people are suffering with, can be reversed, and they were for me just simply by changing the diet.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, understanding that natural fats, not processed man-made oils,
Mm-hmm.
which are actually a byproduct of cottonseed and petroleum. They're used in cars. I mean, it's disgusting. I mean, that's in most of the food that we buy in a packaged form. And then, of course, we were convinced that was heart healthy. So everyone was cooking with that and margarine. So just simple things like going back to what our grandparents probably ate, which was butter, lard, ghee, tallow, all those things that we were scared into thinking that they were going to make us fat, because that was
Mm-hmm.
the whole thing, I don't want to be
Right.
fat. Fat makes us fat. I mean, it just
Right.
doesn't. And fat is beautiful energy, but it's also full of vitamins, these
Mm-hmm.
beautiful fat soluble vitamins, A, D, E, and K. We cannot get that unless we consume these beautiful healthy fats. So that, and then obviously understanding protein, the importance of protein. But protein's kind of the catchword now. You'll go to the supermarket and you'll see high protein crisps and high protein biscuits and high protein chocolate. And really, I mean, protein essentially is animal sourced foods. I mean, that is what our body uses, the most easily in terms of nutrition, and it's full of nutrients and I mean, it's real food first, and then, of course, understanding the macros of carbohydrates, protein, and fat, what they do in our body. Carbohydrates, we've been made to think is this essential nutrient and requirement that we need, but carbohydrates is just energy. Our body has the ability to make energy from fat, but fat has the nutrients, and it also has that ability, through a process in the liver to make any glucose that our brain might need at any moment or our body might need at any moment. So it really isn't essential at all. We can have some, I'm not saying that we shouldn't have any, but I'm saying that for me, when I was pre-diabetic, taking that out, you know, obviously it took me a while because I had the drinking, and drinking is, that's poison, and that's pure sugar, pure carbs to the
Mm-hmm.
body as well. It took me a little while, but I was able to start on that process and understand the science behind it. And that was the biggest. So that was the start. And I think what that did was open my mind enough to see that, okay, so if that I was believing this and it wasn't right, what else is there? Like, what else am I missing? So the
Right.
next big light bulb moment, which actually was not one massive moment, it was obviously many, many moments that happened, was really understanding this idea of thinking and thought and how it leads to behavior. So I'd been
Mm-hmm.
trying for 4 years. So I'd wake up every morning. Right, today's the day. And I'm sure that your listeners will resonate with this. Today I'm not gonna drink, I'm not gonna eat, you know, it's gonna be today. I'm
Right.
determined. I was
Yeah.
hungover, I felt shit, I was tired because had poor metabolic health.
Yeah.
Mum, I had five, yeah, three younger kids. Yeah. It took me 4 years until I had this insight that the thought that, because I'd start watching the clock. 5 o'clock was my rule that I could open my bottle and, you
Mm.
know, relax and,
Yeah.
unwind after my hard day with my young children. Um, I'd start watching the clock from about 11-ish in the afternoon, sorry, in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
And what I learnt was that thought was optional, right? That all that was a habitual thought,
Mm-hmm.
like a bus coming past that I was getting on day after day after day. And every time I got on it, it became even more firm in my brain. It was a pathway that was just like, if you think about a bush track, when people walk on the path, it gets more, there's, cleaner and cleaner and more, obvious.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what was happening. I learnt that everything we did was a consequence of our own thinking, whether that was conscious thought or unconscious thought, it was still how we acted. And that blew my mind, because I really started to see that, hey, actually it wasn't my kids. or, the stress that was making me drink. It was just simply the fact that I was sitting in feelings that were really uncomfortable to me. I didn't know what to do with them. I didn't know where they were coming from. And I had created these incredible habit to escape, which
Hmm.
was the drinking, and then of course what led on from that. They were the two, they were massive. They both really shifted a huge amount in my life, and they are the foundation pieces to what I now teach others and show others. That has just, I can't tell you how many people that have just from that, just it's so simple. It's simple. It's not it's not easy to put it into practice and to really see it in your own life. And you have to be willing and ready to see it, because
Hmm.
otherwise you won't, obviously. But yeah, everything kind of has grown from there. I mean, to understand then, the beliefs that we have, and how, we've sort of all got have grown up with, this conditioning, particularly around things like alcohol being, and sugar being love and comfort, and, things that they're not. I mean, they're poison. They make you sick. That's not a true story to think that it brings you anything other than a relief in the moment, because you are acting on an urge, and that's what we experience. We feel that relief just in that moment. But then, of course, we are overcome with, I'm so weak. I can't do it. I'm undisciplined. I just can't. I'm broken. Or what's the point? Or whatever. All this stuff that goes on, because we just don't think we can do it. But we can. We just have to understand how it works, and then have the patience and, I guess the love for ourselves to put it into practice into our life.
So it sounds to me like both of those sort of topics about identifying thoughts as being foundational to these entrenched patterns, and also metabolic health and just our choices around food. Both of these things are patterns that we tend to perpetuate. And you're explaining that these are things that in working with those are pathways that you really enact, that you were able to enact change in your life powerfully. And in the work that you did for yourself and in your work with clients, how can you disrupt these patterns? Like, is it just through awareness alone? Is it enacting it behaviorally first and then our neural pathways follow? Like, what would you describe as kind of like, how can you change if someone's just caught in a pattern? Like, what
Yeah.
do you do?
It's not easy. I mean, I think awareness is definitely, we have to be aware. I mean, if we're not aware of something, we can't change it. I think for a lot of the time, what we do is, because we don't know how to change something, we kind of dismiss it, or we don't think about it. We like, or we kind of do what I did. We kind of just ignore it for a little bit and hope that it goes away. And it's just not going to do that.
Yeah.
We have to be conscious, in the process of wanting to change. There's a metaphor I'll share with you that I do take, because I only see one-on-one clients now that are members of my group. So I have a support group. It's a long-term group called the Art of Thriving, and that's really what,
Mhm. I like
yeah,
that.
I love it. It's been 5 years I've had that group, and the way I've set it up is once people join, they can stay for as long as they like. So I've had, people that are in there for the community and connection for five
Hmm.
years, right?
Wonderful.
Yeah, it is great. But one of the things I share with them is this, beautiful metaphor of the owl. So we know that beautiful bird is wise, and the owls just carry so much beauty and wisdom. But if we break down the OWL, we can actually start with a bit of a guide on how to actually, navigate it. So the first O, the O, is observation. So it is that. It's observing our patterns. So when, I feel like this, what do I tend to do? Again, we have to look, we have to become really aware of what are the things we do. What are the things that I'm experiencing? What are the feelings? What are the thoughts? Where am I looking to blame externally for things that are going on within me? Where am I releasing my power, if you like, and wanting others to control my inner world, that type of thing. And that can take, depending on where people are and how far along they are in terms of being ready, to do the work to change. A lot of people journal, a lot of people in my group just sort of, I just say, look, you know, we're very good at judging ourselves. Let's just practice being noticing, write it
Yeah.
down, let it flow, see what you notice. That's a really powerful thing to do. So it just starts to open our eyes to, thoughts and feelings and habits and patterns.
Hmm.
Then we have to move to the W, which is the willing. And that is just that ownership that, if we're not going to own and be willing to do what we need to require, what is required to change patterns and to change behavior, well, nothing will change. People often sit in that intention, I just want things to be different. But, well, if you're not willing to do the work, then nothing will change. And I do think that's a human experience. I mean, we're designed to kind of go down the path of least resistance. That's
Yeah.
just how we work. And
Yeah.
again, understanding that can free us from it because it's like, well, yeah, there's many inbuilt mind things that my brain will come up with to stop me doing that because it's risky, change is unsafe, and that just isn't how we evolved.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, willingness is really powerful and really important. And then the final one is that living, our values. So we have I believe, an internal innate value system that we can tap back into to help guide us with our choices. And the value system is really important because it's usually, well, it is always kind. It's love, it's kindness, it's compassion, it's curiosity, it's things that, if you look at a baby or a child, you see that naturally within them until, kind of we're told that we're too much of this, or we have to be that, or we need to be the good girl, or, and we create these just layers upon layers of beliefs around how we should be. And so we need to remember, what our values are, and then we can choose to act in accordance with those and in alignment with those, as opposed to reactive, patterns and habits that we've created to, to get through life. We haven't done those things because we're bad people or we're broken. It's everything we've done in order to get what we fundamentally need, which is to be loved and to be safe, loved and safe.
Hmm.
And, that doesn't mean they're true though. And that's where we get to look at things like, for me, alcohol, there was no love in alcohol. There was just, constant betrayal and constant, uh, damage to myself because I wasn't accessing that love or that kindness within me. I didn't know how to. And then, yeah. So it's a long process for some people. It's not a 6-week diet. It's not like a 12-week meal plan. The food is important because what the food does is help your brain show up for you. When your
Yeah.
brain is well nourished, you're more likely to have the energy to
Hmm.
want to do this stuff. I mean, it does come hand in hand. And often, I've learnt kind of the metabolic stuff from this over here, and then I've learnt the insight stuff from over here, and I've gone, but no, they have to go together. So I kind of bring
Hmm.
it all together. Yeah, so it's not easy, but neither is living in a life that's not yours. That's what I think we have to realize, that we have that inner feeling that we know we're not choosing, in a way that is, optimal or kind or loving towards ourselves, but we just don't know how to get out of it. We just don't know how to change it. And, it's a process, and it's an unlayering. And that's why I said at the start, like when you understand this, you sit in that incredible excitement that, wow, I know for the rest of my life, I'm going to continue to understand and see things differently. And I think that's really exciting.
Yeah, building those skills, it sounds very, very self-empowering, and that these are the skills that someone can use for a lifetime. I like your framework of the owl, the skill of, I would call the observation, the skill of awareness. The willingness is like the expanding our window of tolerance, our ability to sit with discomfort as we work to change patterns.
Yeah.
And that would result in, I think, the L, the living, having the more of the window between the urge and the automatic reaction. You have more choice there, and that is something that you can use for a lifetime, right? A lifetime of thriving.
Yeah,
And I wonder,
absolutely.
for this development of these important skills, how can someone start? Like, if someone doesn't have trust in themselves, they find that they're just like kind of starting and they just find themselves feeling like I'm betraying myself again, I'm sabotaging myself again, or whatever these things are going on in their head because they continue to set the expectations like today's going to be different, and then they find themselves like just not living up to their expectations. Like, how can someone build self-trust when they don't have it? Like,
Mm.
can you sort of make that a bit more explicit?
Yeah, I'll do my best around that. I think, first of all, if it comes to what I've definitely seen is that in some areas of our life we can trust ourselves, and in some other areas we can't. You know, certainly with the people I work with, and that is predominantly women. They're very successful. They've got a great job, they've got a great career, but they can't. They don't know what to feed themselves. You know, they
Mm,
drink or they make the choices they don't want to make anymore, and they've got poor metabolic health. So they've type 2 diabetes, or they've got cancer, or, you know, they're sick. So they have no ability to trust themselves in that area of how to look after themselves, if you like.
yeah.
So that's one thing I would say. You know, isn't it interesting that we can have a trust in ourselves in something, but in one area, but not in others? And I think that is the plan, because the food environment that we live in is designed that way. So let's really understand that most of the food, unless it's been cooked and bought from, you know, something that's grown or is an animal, has been processed in a way to get us hooked. You know, we live in a corporate world, and the big food industry is very, very, very much about making a huge amount of money. And they don't really care, they don't care about your health at all. They want you hooked. There's a few companies that own from baby formula right to Sustagen. I don't know if you have Sustagen, which is like the old age. It's full of crap. And, you know, it starts at crap. It's full of stuff that's addictive to the brain. And that is the purpose of what we do. So it's very hard to trust yourself when you can't, you know, but it's not your fault.
Yeah.
So that's what a big part that I really, you know, try and get people to understand, that it isn't your fault. It is being designed that way, right? So we have to understand that first. And the second part is we have to believe that we've come here, like every creature on earth comes here, with an inbuilt ability to survive. We have this innate knowing. And it does really come back to our value system that is within us all, that is just covered over by life and the conditioning and all the stuff that happens when we come here. We need to connect back to that to learn to trust ourselves, because what we have innocently done is we've anchored our worth, or our, you know, just who we are in others. So when what others think of us, in you know, what society thinks of us, what type of job we've got, what type of car we drive, you know, all this external stuff that we think is what brings us the good stuff. But,
Mm.
you know, we realize at some point, well, most people do that it doesn't, you know, and it's like it's not real. So we're trying to anchor our worth and, or, you know, our trust or who we are into something that isn't real. What is real is you and what lives inside you. And the process of uncovering that again and remembering, it's currently what I'm doing within my group. It is the most magical work that we can ever do. And to me, that is the foundation work, because that is how we can get to a point where we can trust ourselves again, because we know who we are, we know what we value, and we know that no matter what else is going on around us, and yeah, there's some crazy stuff going on around the world, right? But that has always been the case. Always. Because that's the human, you know, people are human. You know, we're not perfect, we make mistakes, and we have egos. But no matter what goes on around you, if you know your values and you've anchored into that for your worth and for your trust, you'll be able to navigate anything.
Mm.
Um, it's kind of like, I call it like, I did a TED talk a few years ago called Becoming the Navigator of Your Own Life.
Oh,
And
wow.
yeah, so that I didn't know even back then, it's stuff I know now. Like that's the depths that we can go to with, you know, understanding who we are. But that is in every single one of us. And we just have to connect back to that. And if we can do that, then we can trust ourselves. We can trust ourselves and we would change the food environment. Or it's not just the food, but it's, if I do a lot of work around in the circadian health as well, circadian
Mm-hmm.
rhythm, making sure that we get plenty of light and sunlight and we're not
Mm-hmm.
under artificial lights all the time or on screens. And, like screens, iPhones, I mean, it's another dysregulation, dopamine, quick
Yeah.
hit that we're getting in the brain. And it tricks us into thinking that we can't trust ourselves. And so,
Mm-hmm.
when we understand that, we can go from, oh, I mean, all those foods I used to think I needed. I haven't drunk alcohol. Look, I'll be honest, what I did was I went to social use. So I said, okay, I'm going to stop drinking every day once I started to understand that, but I'm going to drink on a weekend or when I go out with family. And I mean, I haven't, it's now nearly 3 years since I just woke up and said, oh, you know what? I'm done. I don't
Yeah.
need it at all. So all the stuff that I used to think I needed, I've now seen that it's an illusion. I didn't need it. It wasn't bringing me anything good. Nothing out there can. It's here. It's all within it. And I get up every morning and watch the sun rise. I walk my dog, and it is my remembering of what I value and that gratitude. And it sounds wanky, I know, like it, and it's kind of people talk about it and as lip service, but when you've done this work and you've remembered who you are, it's a resonance. It just
Mm-hmm.
is a magical feeling. You can't bottle it. Pharmaceutical industry will never get
Yeah.
their hands on it
Yeah.
because yeah, it's within you.
Wow, that's really deep and powerful. I'm going to share something that it kind of makes me think of this and tell me if this is kind of it. It's like sounds like getting rid of the noise. It sounds like slowing down. It sounds like really tuning into yourself. It sounds like embodiment. It sounds like feeling safe in yourself, coming home in yourself, and just like really tuning into the wisdom that's inside yourself and like, yeah, safety, self-worth. Like this is kind of like these are kind of like the phrases that are coming in as you're talking. Am I kind of on point there?
It's beautiful, Christina. I think that says it. That's exactly what it is. That's exactly what it is. I mean, I think we probably all have, the different words that we might put around it, but I love how you said that sense of safety within because that's what I think we're going wrong in a lot of ways. The world is looking out externally for that, but it's here, and it can never be out there because human beings will never give us what we need, like other people. It's here. And when you create your ultimate place of safety, which is that connection back within you, you free others to just be as they are. You don't need them to be in a certain way or, they're just who they are. And you can love them as they are without expecting them or needing them to be anything else other than what they are. Because we touched on this. There was something that you said that made me think of it. We're always doing the best we can at the level of awareness that we have. Always. And when you truly, find that space inside you to have that compassion for yourself. Like, I've made some terrible decisions in my life, but in that moment, it was the best decision I saw to make. And that's why, with understanding and awareness and, really just looking to, well, what's true for all human beings, not just what's true for me and my experience, what's true for all human beings. We just open our eyes and we start to understand more. And with understanding, we can love and we can show compassion. And that's what changes the world. That's what we then radiate out. I don't need you to give that to me because I'm giving that to myself. But the fact that I show up and give you that, it just, it's that resonant, that vibration, that energy. It just is
Hmm.
all around. You see it all around you.
Hmm. Wonderful. Tracy, thank you so much for being here. Everything you shared just, yeah, I dig the intersection of everything you're pulling from psychology and metabolic health and bringing it all together. Is there like a place if people want to get in your world? Do you have a website? Is it Instagram, like YouTube? I don't know. Where do you want to send people? Or if you have multiple links, I can include them too. Like if people want to be part of your world, where would you recommend that we go?
I think just my website, Tracy, Tracey McBeath, one word, .com.au. So yeah, I'm in Australia, but I have clients all over the world. I contract through a company, through Nutrition Network, which is a global organization that, educates doctors and dietitians and coaches just around the power of metabolic health. And I teach the coaches in their insight coaching. So I bring that other element of understanding to the work that I do there. And a lot of those people end up, connecting in my group. And yeah, so that would probably be the first. There's a lot of free stuff I have on my website. So really all you need to be is curious. Just be curious that there's something more, right, that you can see. And, I've got free at the moment this A to Z of Thriving, which is just a 26-day program. You'll get an email from me once a day for 26 days that covers a lot of what we've talked about, and that can help you start to become a little bit more aware of, the role you're playing and what you can change. We have to accept that there's some things we cannot change, but when we really understand, there's many things that we can change for ourselves, and that's what it's about. So yeah, I would head there. I'm on a social media too, but
Website's
hit and miss.
best.
Yeah,
Yeah,
website's
yeah.
got everything you need.
Great. Well, you certainly are an inspiration. So thank you for sharing
Oh,
your powerful messages, and I'll be sure to include your website link in the episode description. Thank you so much, Tracy.
thank you so much for having me. It was an absolute pleasure to connect and meet with you. Isn't it lovely how you can connect and with people? And yeah, we're halfway around the world. I've never met you before, but I feel, that's what's available. That's what's available to all of us. We can connect and be present and show up. And I wish you, so much love and thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much.